Here's what I was trying to talk about from the get-go.
This happened.
Before, when I said the reason why I don't like the Democrats is they're locking everything down. People are suffering. We're having these debates over why the government is guaranteeing these liability protections as well as all this money from our pockets. Amazon is getting all this money. And I simply say to the Democrats, why are you doing it? And you know what the response is? The response is, Biden seeks to ease concerns about cabinet diversity. Welcome to the modern era.
Yeah.
What are they concerned about? What was Joe Biden answering
black
questions
and
about?
who's yellow? Are you kidding me?
Joe Biden was asked at the press conference not about the economy. Okay, he was asked a lot about a lot of stuff. But why is it that there is this is the issue? This is one of the big issues.
Dude, those
of our
people
day.
aren't our leaders. Our leaders exist in other realms than politics. What's that, Lydia?
I actually have something contentious to say about this because we're talking about the diversity of Joe Biden's cabinet, but we're not talking about them legalizing marijuana. And I also feel like that is a huge bread and circuses distraction from the real issues that we're actually facing. Why right now? I don't think it's good timing. I just don't agree with the timing at all.
There are people.
Crazy.
There are people in this country who are more concerned with the color of the individuals, the race of the individuals, who are standing next to Joe Biden.
It's
And those are the questions that
or
they
what
want
they
to
have
ask.
between their legs or what they
Right.
decide to put inside.
I was thinking today about physical health, about kind of what you're talking about, and like, why won't Biden come out and tell people to cut sugar out of their diet? Like, is it too hard for people? Is it he just doesn't want to?
We also have to understand modern science has been used by many special interests to push certain agendas, just like the sugar industry going against fats, just like the big tobacco industry financing a lot of doctors. There's a long history of
climate
not
change.
just there's a new meme going around showing that doctors should have their medical jackets covered with all the big pharma
You mean
agencies
scientists?
sponsoring them.
Oh, no, doctors, right,
just
right.
like politicians have their logos of the corporations that support them on their suits. So I do think there's also that element that needs to be also recognized, that there have been scientists that have been bought out by the special interest and said absurd things like cigarettes are good for you that have absolutely been proven wrong.
Everything's broken.
Yeah, and it deserves the highest amount of criticism if we're going to move forward in some way towards fixing it.
I think, for one, I was listening to a video from Jordan Peterson recently. PragerU posted it. It was someone asking about climate change and effective leaders, and Jordan said, "Clean your room, bucko." That's a simple, paraphrasing of what he said was. But what he actually said was, he said something to the effect of, I would be skeptical of somebody who was trying to clean the world when they have not put their own home, before they've taken care of their own personal affairs.
Right.
And he said, so what we need is for people to become responsible, self-sufficient, to straighten out their lives before they, eventually move on to try and change others. But in learning how to be responsible, self-reliant, independent, they gain those abilities to then move on to the next step of helping others do the same, to become a leader, to make appropriate decisions. So it all starts with you learning how to start a fire.
Yeah.
You know how to start a fire?
I practiced that in Philly. That was a big thing I used to do a lot.
This year has been huge for me when it comes to everything that you're mentioning right now, specifically just being stuck inside of New York City during the supposed worst of it, during the middle of the lockdowns, during the middle of the highest supposed epidemic, and realizing that I'm surrounded by a bunch of unprepared individuals
who are hungry
and
thirsty,
that will do anything to survive. We're living right on top of each other, and it just takes the trucks not coming in. That's it.
The bigger issue,
utter madness.
But the big issue is there's an optimism and a normalcy bias. So the optimism bias is it can't happen here. The normalcy bias is that'll never happen. But people don't realize when it came to, say, the fall of the Soviet Union, people had been living their whole lives, generations, under the system, then one day was gone. There are civil wars that broke out where people thought it would never happen. In fact, in the United States Civil War, people were gathering on the hill near, Fort Sumter, thinking a war will never break out, having a picnic. And then all of a sudden they watched people getting disemboweled in explosions and were like vomiting up their picnic, like, wow, it's really happening.
Yeah.
People think, what's funny is, you ever watch a prepper show?
Yes.
And it's funny how people mock and ridicule preppers. You know why that was always confusing to me? You'd think a consumerist capitalist society would venerate preppers. Buy more. Buy 30 years of beans and put them in your basement. Buy. After 9/11 happened, George W. Bush, what did he say?
store up, go purchase.
Go to the mall, go buy stuff, buy stuff.
Yep.
That's why I always found it funny that preppers were looked down upon. If anything, the consumerist American society.
They were targeted, they were laughed at, but this year in 2020,
they're laughing at us.
They came out as the real MVPs here. And I remember being in New York and saying, I need to get out of here. In March, I went out to a farm in Pennsylvania and realized I have no skills at all. I can't do this. I can't figure this out. And I was stuck saying, this is either going to make me or break me. I decided to move up to New Hampshire, went up there. I was supposed to do a whole tour all around the United States, but ended up staying there on this synchronistic kind of event. I was looking for an RV, found a friend who needed one fixed. It was too expensive for me to afford. I ended up fixing it at my friend Jay Noon's big compound, where he literally is a diesel mechanic and fixer-upper guy who wears overalls, is covered in grease all the time, and could fix anything with all the tools that he had in his shed. And I spent 5 months there learning just the basics of being a mechanic, just the basics of welding, and also a lot of survival self-defense training courses that I ended up teaching people. So it's been something that's been absolutely incredible, living in the middle of nowhere. And there is something to say about individuals when they live in the country automatically turning more either libertarian, anarchist, or right-wing because of the self-sufficiency, because of the importance of understanding that in nature, it is wild, it is crazy, it is hectic, but it's only you and yourself that are responsible for your butt, and no one else is.
But you know what makes people right wing when they do this, when they go through this stuff?
The hard work.
The hard work.
Yes.
And then when someone comes along, imagine this: you worked for 8 hours. You finally, built your little shelter. You got a fire going. You caught some rabbits, and then some dude walks up and goes, "Can I get some of that?" You're gonna be like, "Bro,
Nice.
I got barely enough for me, and it was really hard to do. Come on, dude, share."
Yeah, we
like
made
you've
people,
got more than me.
We made people work. We had chickens running around all over the property. People had to catch them with their bare
That's
hands
work, dude.
during my training courses.
That
It was
is
pretty
work.
funny to watch because a bunch of city slickers came. A bunch of people from Boston, New York, New Jersey
Catch
came to
chickens.
New Hampshire for my survival training course, and they were literally running around trying to catch these chickens. They had to catch them, and then they had to chop off their heads, pluck them, take out the organs, cook them, eat them as they make their own
So much
shelter.
work.
And
That's
it's
great.
a lot of work.
What's the best trick to catch a fleeing chicken?
Corner
fast.
it.
You make a lasso with some twine.
No, that
No,
didn't
you
work
have
at
to
all.
and
corner
then
it.
that's pulling you, and you're like, ah!
You
Yeah,
have
that's
to
what
corner
happens.
it, and sometimes even just walking straight up and feeding it.
Or birdshot.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, then
Great
you're going to
advice,
have a whole
Tim.
bunch of pellets in your chicken that you're going to try to eat, and you don't want
Yeah,
birdshot.
you gotta do some work,
But
But it is easier.
Yeah, but making your own shelter, making your own fire, filtering your own water, that is an extensive, exhausting activity, and those are the basic necessities that people take advantage of every single day. After going through that chicken, after having to catch it, after gutting it, after cutting it, after putting it on a plate and cooking it, you realize how absolutely absurd it is that there's chicken thighs for $1 at Walmart.
I know,
You're like,
right?
what are they doing that they have to mass produce such food so quickly, so efficiently to make this $1 when it took me all day to make this chicken to produce it into a sustainable meal?
We
We
waste
need
it.
kids to experience
Yeah.
to learn this.
Yes.
Right?
Well, my friend Jay Noon,
To value
he
it.
had man camp. That's what he called it.
Man camp.
And it's literally where kids come. I was a part of the kids. I'm not afraid to admit that. And he teaches them just basic things like welding, using a wrench, using a hammer, making shoe horses, making hangers, whatever
Folding
it is.
steel for his katana.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
We did
Forging.
we did a lot of different stuff, but there is something to say about this kind of attitude and the type of people in New Hampshire that are in the wild. There's some city folks. There's a big Free State Project initiative, but one thing that really sparked my interest in New Hampshire wasn't just the community, but also the lack of government. New Hampshire, you don't need car insurance, you don't need helmets, you don't need seatbelts when you drive. But they have some of the safest roads in the United States. They're the #1 in homeschooling with the highest IQ in all of the United States. They have the most Bitcoin transactions per capita. Go ahead.
Wow.
There's a video game YouTuber
Yep.
who was playing a game. It was called like City States, and he normally it's like you choose how much taxes you want, wages, stuff like that, and then you build buildings.
Yep.
He decided as a gag to make a totally lawless society,
And it
under
thrived.
under the assumption it would be chaos and destruction and fighting in poverty. This video is amazing because his shock and confusion as he removed all the laws. There were no poor people. Everybody lived in luxury buildings. There was an abundance of wealth, and he's laughing like, "What's happening? There's no regulations, but there's
no taxes,
no pollution,
no inspections,
there's no poverty, no crime."
Amazing.
And it was gone. The video went crazy.
It could get
viral.
to a point where technology is so good that we can go back to before the era of regulations and have a new freedom.
Well, there's a lot
Yeah,
of.
if we create like an AI that just forces us to live under the
encourages us to live.
I don't know. I'm not for that,
But we got crypto. We have like desalination,
crypto, homeschooling, and people arming themselves and defending themselves in New Hampshire in record numbers. And New Hampshire is one of the most Second Amendment friendly states in all of the United States, and it has the least amount of homicides and gun deaths in the nation. So when you look at, it's expensive when it comes to let's talk about some of the negatives, because you need to talk about both of the sides here. You do have property taxes, but you do have record low taxes when it comes everywhere else, but the property taxes are really high, and you do have an opioid epidemic that has hit New Hampshire extensively hard, and you're seeing the effects of it, especially in Manchester, where you're seeing a lot of people addicted to meth. So there are positive and negatives. It does get really cold there, hence why I am here with you, living in your parking lot right now.
That's right.
Making my way slowly down to Florida. Ooh. But I will be back in New Hampshire. I absolutely love it there. I love the community, and I love individuals.
We're gonna get a farm though.
Yeah, I like that idea too, because we might do. I don't know if you want to
survival.
We
vlogs.
might do survival trainings,
but it's not even that. It's about having fun.
Grow corn.
It's about making a video of Luke chasing a chicken around.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Once you get into this hard work, it's so fun. It's so rewarding, and it's so amazing to be able to do this stuff, even though it is difficult. But that's what life is. Life. If everything was easy, if everything was handed to you, if Democrats and the globalists had their way and they would give you everything, you wouldn't appreciate it, and it would be filled with crap.
Think about you walk into Walmart and you're like, I'll just take 2 fried chickens.
Dude.
Yes.
Whole chickens.
Yeah. No, dude.
Every
time I walk into Walmart, I'm like, how much of this are we wasting? I hate it so much. I hate that feeling. And what you were talking about, raising kids to like take care of chickens and stuff, like your little camp, your little kids camp. That's how I was raised. Yeah. I remember I raised chickens to lay eggs. That was my first job.
Now, this is my question towards Tim. You raise a country like that, that's armed, that prepares their own food, that is ready for anything,
fascism,
that doesn't need any government, that doesn't need anything. How will the Chinese invade? like what was the thing that the Japanese said when they were talking about
that's not a real
the
quote.
United States? It's not?
No.
I thought it was, so I'm mistaken.
A rifle behind every blade of grass.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to know how they'll invade? Exactly.
Culturally.
No.
Neural net.
No. It's called a bunch of individuals who are responsible only to themselves and surviving for themselves. One day a businessman comes along and says, we want to get a proposition for you, and we'll pay you a really great rate to do X, Y, or Z. And they'll say yes. And then they start getting this money and they don't want to back down. And they say, now do this, now do this, now do this. And slowly but surely they increment people towards policies that benefit them. And then you end up with a Chinese businessman comes and buys massive swaths of property across the Western United States. And people just say, yeah, amazing.
Maybe what
it's literally happening right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening right now. Right. But you have a whole bunch of lemmings, whole bunch of unprepared people with their flip-flops and their lattes being on the government teeth that are even questioning it or doing anything to be self-sufficient and are being dependent.
Shout out to lattes,
if a Chinese businessman came to you and offered you $500,000 for your RV, would you say yes?
For my, yeah, sure.
Of course you would. And then you'd be like, wow, now they own your RV. That's what they're doing with land. And people are going, wow.
And life insurance policies. Yeah. Have you seen those commercials where they want to buy your life insurance policy? If you don't need your life insurance policy anymore,
I haven't seen that.
Sell it. It's insidious. People are
I don't know about
desperate for money. It's on keeps showing on Fox. It's crazy.
But what future do you think is possible if people became self-sustainable? Do you think my future or Tim's future? Should we do like a voting thing?
I think without a cohesive community, you'll end up with.
But I think we would if we have an identity as people. And I think that an identity and I think a culture should come first and should be prioritized, because right now culture is being thrown into the trash. It has the worst elements in it right now that are highlighted.
It's dominated by the left.
The most degenerate, disgusting behavior possible that breaks up the family unit. If you look at what they're pushing out there in mainstream culture, it's drugs, it's alcohol, it's chemicals, it's you now even have mainline rappers talking about the latest pharma medicine that they want want to
Hold on.
induce with themselves
Wait,
with cough syrup.
Hold on.
That's literally what
you
kids
married?
aspire to be.
You married?
Not yet.
How old are you?
I don't know.
How
How old do
are
I
you?
look like?
Genetic
How old-
age
How
or
old do I look
rotations
like?
around the
34?
sun?
How old are you?
34? 34 years old? You got any kids?
Working on it.
34, no,
maybe we'll see. Maybe I
unmarried,
do.
no kids, driving
Maybe.
around in an RV. Mr. DMT, psychedelics, ayahuasca.
Thing is, there's
You're
What,
gonna
what is
criticize-
this judgment here?
You're gonna
What is
criticize-
this- what is this
you're gonna
criticism?
criticize-
I'm not criticizing.
No.
I'm
You're gonna
making
say-
a comment on culture.
Yes, and you contribute to that culture.
Depends. Maybe, but not to the extensive elements of totally selling out. We all sell
Sure.
out in some ways. That's basically undeniable because you there's no other way in mainline society right now, of course. But again, we all strive towards being something better. And I think striving is the first step into getting it. And I am making decisions and goals that are a lot different than they were when they were influenced by culture. Because growing up in New York City, growing up in Brooklyn, I was absolutely influenced by the worst elements of mainstream society and their ideas of glorifying drug dealers and glorifying violence and glorifying this idiocy. I was an absolute total victim of it, and I perpetrated it to the fullest extent. Well, whatever, you know what I mean. I'm just speaking expressively here. But essentially, when it comes to understanding it, that is the first step towards defeating it, and we could all be better. And I'm making decisions to be as best as I can, and I'm making the best decision to move away from that and move forward towards a family and kids. And
thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.